My lungs burned, the metallic taste of ozone saturating the air as I sprinted deeper into the crumbling depths of U9. The echoes of footsteps behind me, a cacophony of thuds and skids, pressed against my resolve. They were closing in, the relentless enforcers of Directive Omega. I could hear their growls of frustration at my tenuous lead, could feel the pulse of danger drumming in my chest like a warning bell. It was a stark reminder that this wasn't a game, it was survival. Once again, I cursed myself for trusting Clarissa. I had seen the warning glimmers in her eyes, a blend of caution and longing that had masked the truth. She had whispered of safety, a scheme to slip away from Niveus and join the so-called unyielding humans, the legends that were rumored to still thrive beyond the collapse. I had leapt into her plan, abandoning my friends, my family, my entire life, all for the tantalizing promise of freedom. And now, freedom was a burning gauntlet of agony. I rounded a corner and skidded to a halt, muscles twitching with the urge to keep moving, but this was no time to be reckless. The thick walls of the corridor were slick with moisture and remnants of an age-long past. Old machinery lay dormant, gray and corroded, like ancient beasts reduced to bones. My heart raced as the list of choices played through my mind. The audio echoes surged closer, an intimidating tide of dread from the enforcers chasing me down. I needed time, but how? My eyes landed on a vent high above, faintly glimmering with stagnant light. If I could just reach it, with a desperate leap, my hands clawed at the rusted grate, a surge of adrenaline pushing me upward. I pulled myself through just as the pounding footsteps rounded the corner. With every ounce of strength, I wrangled the grate back into place, the metallic sound clanking through the confined space, a satisfyingly bitter final act. I gasped for breath in the darkness of the vent, pressing my back against the cool metal. They would hear me, they would be here soon. I could taste the tang of desperation mixed with the acrid scent of sweat. But I had convinced myself to chase after the hope that Clarissa had ignited, and now even that ember was fading. Remembering the night we had met, I closed my eyes and transported myself back to the glow of the glowsticks at the underground gathering. Her laugh echoing, an intoxicating melody that had lit up the shadows of my existence. "We just have to trust," she had said, confidence bursting like blooms in spring. But trust was a chasm I had leapt into unprepared, and the fall had left bruises far deeper than skin. As the voices of the enforcers hissed through the corridor below, I slowly shifted, pressing my ear to the vent's metal barriers. Split up. An enforcer barked, and my heartbeat quickened at the thought of being trapped in the vent. I had to make it to the surface if I wanted even a sliver of a chance at escape. But this urban sprawl was worse than a labyrinth. Every structure bore the scars of years of industry, decay, and desperation. And beneath it all, the whispers of those who believed in ancient legends. I clung to the whispered words as tightly as I could. The unyielding humans live on the fringes, away from surveillance and scorn. They are more resilient than the rest of us. But the allure of myth could only take me so far. I needed proof. My instinct clamored that Clarissa had led me down a dark path. But what if she was right? What if the unyielding could really offer hope? A place where we did not have to scuffle as shadows under the weight of laws that crushed humanity into submission. The faint clatter of footsteps drew my focus. They were regrouping below. With my heart racing, I pushed the vent's cover aside and dropped into a dusty room, landing without grace but with purpose. The moment I glanced up, my eyes widened in shock. A holographic map flickered before me, illuminating the walls with a navigation guide that pointed to a Sector 12. See, the path to freedom. I stumbled closer, fingers grazing the display, the sterile touch of technology invigorating me with both anger and hope. Who had left it here? Before I could analyze the implications, another sound pierced through the dim silence, a signal tone indicating new enemies in proximity. I had only moments. From the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a door. I sprinted towards it, urgency guiding me. With a swift shove, I found myself in an outdoor compound, the air cooler than expected and filled with an unfamiliar, fragrant sweetness that clashed with the toxic reminders of life below. My breath hitched again, not from running, but from the sheer potential of what stood ahead. I could see shifting shadows of people, blurs of movement, fragments of lives happening just beyond reach. Resilience echoed in their laughter, each voice vibrating with unyielding defiance against the walls of the world that wanted to contain them. But once again, the gnawing doubt of Clarissa's trust raked through me. Would they see me as yet another lost soul seeking refuge, or a threat among their ranks seeking to destroy their delicate peace? There was no time left for second guessing. The ground beneath my feet became eerily solid, betraying earlier fears. This wasn't a place of silence. Stories lingered in the bristle of leaves, in the sway of commuters along the pathways. This was the land of the unyielding, and my heart thudded with the wild rhythm of a drumline, an echo of both panic and thrill. They could have answers, perhaps even a plan, maybe even the hope I chased across this entangled world. But I had no idea what awaited me, and the stakes had never been higher. Inside this legend, I needed to navigate my own truths and confront the ghosts of trust I had summoned along the way. Would I become a legend too, or would I simply fade like the others, swallowed whole by the shadows of forgotten lives? Before I could think too hard, a sudden noise quickened my pulse. A shadow darted in my periphery. A directionless choice loomed ahead. Fight or run? I had no way to know if I would crumble like a cartoon character or rise to become something resilient, something remarkable. But either way, my path was set. The air shimmered around me, thick with tension and uncertainty, as the shadow retreated into the deeper recesses of the compound. The cacophony of distant voices mingled with laughter, the unmistakable warmth of camaraderie wrapping around me like a tangible embrace. I could not act on instinct. I had to be cautious. Tentatively, I stepped forward, letting the pulse of the place urge me on. Gathering remnants of courage, I approached a group congregated around a flickering data cube, its blue light casting an ethereal glow across their features. They were unlike any enforcers I'd encountered, their eyes alight with fervor and hope. Instead of oppressive uniforms, they wore styles that spoke of individuality, alive with patches and stitching that told stories. I felt the weight of my own monotonous garb, a stark reminder of the life I had fled. "Who's that?" one of them asked, their voice clear and sharp as they turned. I froze. "Easy. She's not from the sectors might be lost." A taller figure with wild, tangled hair interjected, stepping forward. I subconsciously noted the red bandana tied around their arm, a mark of the unyielding, a symbol I'd only heard whispers of. Were they friendly, or did I just appear as prey? "She might be more than lost," a woman added, eyeing me thoughtfully. She had the air of authority, her stance firm yet open. "What's your name, stranger?" "Lyra," I managed to say, my voice trembling at the unfamiliarity. I heard about the unyielding." The intrigue in their eyes ignited an inner fire, but beneath the empowering flicker was an undercurrent of fear. Not solely for myself, but for what they might uncover about my past. "Many have heard, but few find us," said the leader. She stepped closer, assessing me. "Nadia, by the way, are you from one of the sectors?" "Yes, Nivius." I was trying to escape. The truth felt heavy on my tongue, a burden I wore with every word that dropped from my lips. But they were hunting me. I was trying to reach freedom, the stories. "Freedom's a seductive term," Nadia replied, her brows knitted slightly. She nodded knowingly, as if aware of my struggles. "But you should know it comes with a price." I nodded slowly, aware that I stood on the precipice of choice. "What do you mean?" She gestured toward the door leading deeper into the compound, wheeling my attention away from the palpable tension outside. "Follow me. There are things you need to see." The others exchanged glances, a glimmer of trepidation in their eyes as I inclined my head in agreement. Questions consumed my thoughts as I followed Nadia through the narrow passage. The corridor pulsed with energy, illuminated by soft lighting that cast an inviting warmth despite the looming shadows. It felt like a heartbeat, a lifeline to a world beyond oppression. As we emerged into a large, open room alive with the energy of discussions and exchanges, I found myself momentarily stunned. A holographic map took center stage, embellished by bright lines outlining pathways that crisscrossed with symbols like spiderwebs interwoven with light. It depicted not just sectors, but connections, trade routes, hiding spots, intricate networks shimmering with promise. "This is the collective," Nadia explained, her voice rising above the murmur of conversations. "A living map of all the unyielding. We're not merely hiding, we're thriving, collaborating. We're the voices that refuse to be silenced." I leaned in closer, my fingers hovering above the glowing pathways, suddenly awash with hope and fear. This job, to be one of the sparks in a larger flame, felt monumental, and yet the thought of trust echoed warnings I could not shake. "But what if you're found? What if the enforcers come here?" Nadia's expression hardened slightly, a shift that bespoke grief and resilience. "We hide in plain sight, but security is an illusion. They know we exist. They want us to feel afraid." Her eyes danced over the faces, a shared resilience etched into them. "Yet fear does not break us, it unites us. It compels us to innovate." "And what is your innovation?" I asked hesitantly. "Connections," she replied, her voice low, serious. "We're looking for a way to fracture the Dominion's hold. A diversion, a leverage point, something they cannot ignore." Her intensity was both frightening and invigorating. "Are you in?" A bolt of realization coursed through me. I wouldn't just be standing on the sidelines, I could be part of something greater, a collaborative push toward liberation. But little did I know, betrayal simmered just beneath this newfound hope. "Lyra," a new voice called, pulling me from my thoughts. I turned to see a figure burst into the room. Ari, a familiar face from the past. My heart dropped. "You made it out. Why did you leave?" An unexpected rush of emotions washed over me. Surprise mixed with guilt. "I had to. I thought I was being followed. I didn't know if I'd drag you with me into danger." Ari clenched their jaw, the fire in their eyes burning fiercer. "You could have trusted me. We could have helped each other escape. I was trying to protect you, or you were just trying to protect yourself," Ari snapped, their voice cutting like a jagged edge. The churning emotions created a rift between us, the fabric of our friendship fracturing in the tension. "Enough." Nadia's voice rang like a bell, arresting the clash just in time. "There's no room for further betrayal here, Lyra. We need to focus on our mission." But I could feel the weight of Ari's disappointment, the silence that hung like an invisible blade ready to sever whatever remained of our trust. In that fleeting moment, I realized my past wasn't merely a haunting. It had followed me, entwining with my present. As a series of discussions unfolded, details regarding operations and strategies filled the air. Talks of sabotage resonated in my mind, weaving threads of what I initially deemed impossible into potential realities. The Unyielding were restless, eager, and alive with plans. I felt the pull to commit, to lose myself in their confidence, yet that rift, that lack of trust, hung heavy. Suddenly, a commotion broke through the intensity of planning, voices rising in alarm. "They've found us. The enforcers are entering the sector." A panicked shout echoed through the room, causing dread to sweep like wildfire. Nadia's gaze snapped back towards me, registering the alarm, the urgency unearthing fear anew from our earlier tensions. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Stay with us," she instructed, firm and unyielding. "We'll secure the escape routes." But I remembered the layout from the holographic map. The escape routes were there, but so were potential traps, layers of unknown choices pitting safety against survival. I could still hear the echo of Ari's voice wrangling in my brain. Trust or distrust, silence or noise. The break had already happened, and it would take more than survival to mend it again. "Lyra." Ari's shout reminded me of the storm outside. They were already edging toward the back exit. "We need to go now." I felt torn, the fear that the enforcers would overwhelm us gnawed deep. but was abandoning the unyielding the right choice. I turned back toward Nadia, sensing the urgency unfolding into chaos. What do we do? Stick together, she insisted. It will cover each other. Now, move. It was a rush into disarray, the mix of conviction and apprehensiveness twisting every step as we bolted for the exits. Every face was a shadow tension swirled through the air like biting sparks from a distant wire. The world felt too vast, too chaotic. Would we reach safety? Or would we become just another story lost within the shadows of the enforcers? As we dashed through the corridors, an explosion erupted in the distance, sending tremors resonating through my bones. The blaring alarms pointed a stark warning. The Dominion was not only relentless, they were here. The walls pulsed, a living warning of the chaos rippling beyond. In an instant, reality had shifted. I would have to reconcile my journey with my past. My heart raced. Could I truly be part of this cause? Did I have enough strength within to rise against the oppression, to face what the unyielding had to offer? Perhaps the path to freedom was not forged alone. I felt the urgency of the moment, the pressing weight of decisions yet to unfold. Stay close, Nadia's yell echoed as we veered around a corner. My instincts screamed at me to retreat, to gather what fragments of my past felt safe. But what awaited beyond those layers of comfort? Only time would tell, but we were racing toward unknown answers, chasing shadows in a world determined to keep us lost. As we dashed further into the unfolding chaos, the stories of our lives were about to collide against the thunderous storm of fate that loomed over us. With equal parts fear and exhilaration, I chose to embrace it. Together, we would face the storm, uncover secrets, and perhaps, just perhaps, find the trust needed to ignite a revolution. The cacophony of chaos unfurled like a wild storm as we fled deeper into the heart of the Unyielding's compound. Every thud of boots and crackle of static filled the air, a stark reminder of the Dominion's relentless grip. This way, Nadia shouted, whipping around another corner where vines of metallic wires snaked against the walls, intertwining in a way that made the path feel alive, almost sentient. My pulse quickened at her command, a rhythm matching the collective heartbeat of our flight. We moved as a coordinated unit, instinctively leaning into our trust in one another, though that trust felt precarious and thin against the backdrop of our turbulent realities. Ari stuck close to me, their face a mask of determination but also deep, seated betrayal. The weight of that fracture loomed large amidst the panic, the sound of our escape resonating with deeper implications that surged through me. "Where are we heading?" I gasped, the air thickening with urgency, disorientation threading through my focus as we navigated a labyrinth of corridors. "Sector 12, B. There's a hidden exit," Nadia replied, her voice a calm anchor amidst the chaos. "It leads to the outer walls, but it's guarded. We'll have to be quick and quiet." Ares nodded, their eyes narrowing as they assessed our rapid approach towards the guarded path. We dodged past flickering lights and condensation dripped from the ceiling like a slow clock ticking away precious seconds. The stakes had escalated. We were now not just trying to survive, but to escape with our desire for freedom still in hand. "Stay close," Nadia repeated, pushing us forward into a narrow passageway. My heart raced not from the physical demand of running, but from the slow crawl of doubt now creeping into my thoughts. Would the hidden exit allow for true freedom, or would it catapult us right into a net of injustice once again? As we reached the door to Sector 12, B, shadows danced ominously ahead. Nadia crouched near the wall, signaling us to halt. The tension in the air crackled like static as we strained to hear the thudding march of enforcers patrolling the corridor. They were relentless. Each step resonated through the ground like the approach of thunder. "Are they here already?" Ari whispered, almost pleading. "We have to wait for our moment," Nadia replied, scanning the area for openings, for vulnerabilities in their formation. The vulnerability was palpable, teetering on the edge of chance. Just then, a muffled sound broke through the air, a commotion building from somewhere deep within the recesses of the compound. A voice rang out crystalline in the turmoil. A report. Where are the unyielding? The demand echoed, sending shivers through me. The enforcers were closing in, and we could not afford to falter now. Time seemed suspended as I glanced at Ari, our eyes locking. A moment rich with unsaid words and the weight of our shared history. If this was our last stand, could we overcome the fracture between us? I narrowed my gaze and stepped closer, urging Ari to understand. Once we get through this, we need to talk. About everything. Their expression softened briefly, the flicker of a bond reigniting within the storm of uncertainty. Agreed, they replied curtly, but concern lingered beneath the surface, an unshakable hesitation rooted in loyalty and betrayal. Suddenly, Nadia snapped us back to urgency. And now, haltingly, she swung the door open just enough for us to slip into Sector 12B, adrenaline tearing through the air as we darted in. As we edged forward, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The low hum of machinery buzzed around us, a stark contrast to the fray outside. Enforcers patrolled the outer limits, but here, the pulse felt less frantic, almost purposeful. I took in the scattered monitors and screens illuminating coded messages, streams of data flowing like lifeblood. What is this place? I breathed, my skepticism mingling with curiosity. This is the data core. I was hoping to access the files that could help us. Nadia explained, urgency mixing with determination dancing in her eyes. If we can retrieve tangible information on the enforcers' movements, we can better prepare ourselves. But we don't have time, Ari insisted, glancing back at the door as the muffled sounds of footsteps grew closer. We need to move. I know, but we can't afford to go in blind. Nadia shot back, frustration flaring in the crackling energy between us. Every moment we stall could mean the difference between life and death. Your lives are worth this. The desperation in her voice struck me like an electric current, resonating amid our divisions. What if it backfires? I breathed, panic creeping through me as uncertainty tightened its grip. Trust was an intricate tapestry threatening to unravel beneath the strain. What if we don't get out? We cannot allow fear to drive our decisions. Nadia pressed, crossing her arms defiantly. There's more at stake here than just our lives. There are lives beyond these walls that need us. Ari stepped forward, eyes blazing. But what if your plan puts all of us at risk? We barely know how to escape, let alone take the fight to them. The clash of perspectives ignited a tension that crackled in the air, raw and electrifying. The gap between us widened, driven by the concept of loyalty versus survival. Maybe we can compromise, figure this out, I ventured, trying to mediate the conflict, even as the enforcers drew ever nearer. Is there no way we can gather intel quickly? We need a way to go, Nadia broke in, her voice breaking the fray. I'll find a way to access the files while you two secure the exit. I'll catch up, you can't hesitate. That's insane, I cried, drawing back from her decision. We can't leave you. But Ari stepped into my line of sight, a resolute fire igniting within their gaze. What if that's the best chance we have? I shuddered as the realization stirred within me. We were poised on the brink of something much larger. It wasn't just about our lives anymore. It was about possibly unearthing the key to breaking the bonds of the Dominion forever. We can't lose anyone else, I whispered, desperation gnarling my thoughts. Trust me, Nadia implored, voice unwavering yet wild with uncertainty. Trust in something bigger than ourselves. The unyielding stand for hope. You need to keep moving, or all of this will be for nothing. A tremor raced through me. We were tethered together, each energized strand of trust interwoven in this moment of choice. I looked back at Ari, eyes searching for a sign. Could I lean into this risk? Go, Ari said finally, guilt tinged with fierce resolve. She's right. It's our only option. In that moment, my decision formed against the backdrop of fear. It solidified like ice, cold yet unyielding. Fine, I breathed, the words laced with a fraying sense of dread. We'll meet at the outer walls. Without another moment's hesitation, Nadia rushed to her terminal, fingers dancing over screens as Ari and I sprinted down the dimly lit corridor toward the exit we hoped would lead to freedom. The industrial soundscape pulsed with tension as we rounded corner after corner, eyes darting nervously at every flickering light and moving shadow. "This way," Ari murmured, their voice resolute despite the adrenaline coursing through us. With every step, the stakes climbed higher. The air felt electric, charged with the connecting lines of unspoken fears and possible futures. We approached the exit, but just as we reached the final doorway, the ground beneath our feet reverberated, the unmistakable sound of footsteps drawing near. The door was slightly ajar, barely hanging on its hinges. The way out was so close, yet uncertainty pressed heavily upon us. Time was unfurling rapidly, and the echoing near silence eroded any sense of security. The dread swelled as I caught a glimpse of an enforcer just beyond the threshold. They moved with practiced precision, purpose, driven. Ari and I exchanged frantic glances, the tension mounting in both our bodies and our bond. "What do we do now?" I whispered, horror clawing at the edges of reason. Ari's resolve hardened, their brows furrowing into a dangerous calm. "We hide. We'll wait for the perfect moment to slip by." Panic flared at the back of my thoughts, but surrender felt impossible. A race against time spiraled around us, breathing life into the chaos. Just as we prepared to dive into the shadows, the unmistakable screech of metal against metal cut through the charged air. The door swung wide open, framing the enforcer. "Stop right there," they barked, rising like a wave crashing toward us. There were no more choices, no more hesitation. The world shrank down to pure instinct as we dove into the cramped space just off to the side, hidden in the shadows of discarded crates. My heart pounded erratically against my ribs, the thumping echoing my spiraling fears. Ari squeezed my hand tightly, our fingers intertwining, an unspoken vow forged in the depths of panic. We held our breath as the enforcer sauntered closer, scanning, surveying, unearthing the fragments of our uncertainty. "There!" they yelled suddenly, their gaze locking onto our hiding place. We raced forward, my voice choked with adrenaline as I urged Ari beside me together. We hit the ground running, bursting from our shadows. Every muscle in my body screamed for survival as we bolted toward the exit, the air thick with uncertainty, each moment extending into eternity. But the enforcer was hot on our heels, the sound of their footsteps growing exponentially. "Run!" I shouted, urgency grabbing Ari to keep pace as we plunged through the door and out into the world beyond. A blast of fresh air mingling with a terrifying sense of freedom. The outside world enveloped us like a welcomed embrace, the blue sky pierced with the vibrant colors and sounds of life reaching out. "We're almost there. Just keep moving," Ari urged, their spirit igniting flickers within my heart. Before us lay an expansive landscape of uncertainty and promise, the periphery of the Dominion and the realm of the Unyielding colliding in an intricate tapestry of risk and resolve. But the chase was not over. Ahead toward the trees, I shouted, veering sharply as we raced across uneven terrain, breaths ragged, hearts racing in unison. But the enforcer spotted us, charging from the entrance we had just sprinted from, relentless and imposing, weaving through the outcrop of trees like a hunter catching sight of their quarry. My instincts kicked into overdrive as we navigated the dense foliage, branches reaching like claws into our backs as we ducked and weaved to find cover. Could we lose them in this vast forest, a place brimming with secrets yet unnamed? "Keep low," Ari called, their voice barely a whisper as we moved deeper, the breath of freedom and fear intertwining fiercely. Just as I thought we had managed to lose them, a voice boomed through the trees. "You can't escape the Dominion. You're outnumbered." Resistance thundered through the enforcer's tones, a chilling echo of threats that filled me with dread. They were right. We were outnumbered, yet we were not alone. Ahead, I glimpsed the shadowy figures moving through the thickets. The Unyielding had come, sprung to life like fireflies igniting the dark, ready to confront the tempest that had surged against them. "Here," I urged, spotting a glimpse of familiar faces sprouting from the foliage. This way, as we bolted forward, my heart buoyed with determination. My fears intertwined with the will to confront the Dominion, to fight, to rise against the storm. The moment we emerged, the air crackled with tension, and I could see that the Unyielding had already taken up positions, their faces painted with grim determination, ready for the imminent confrontation. "A surrender doesn't suit you, Lyra," Nadia said, stepping from the shadows, a fierce glow in her eyes. "We stand together now, allies forged in our desire for liberation. We will fight back." Standing alongside Ari, the echoes of our shared history thrummed in a renewed rhythm, a bond fortified by the fire of purpose. As the Enforcer advanced, backed by an array of soldiers, we stood united. There, in the depths of uncertainty, a singular truth illuminated the darkness. Our struggle, our trust, our stories merged together as a single heartbeat. "Let them see the Unyielding rise," I whispered, finally aware that the strength we needed had been nestled within us all along. Tide of resistance swelled, and as the Enforcers approached, our voices rang like the hymn of battle, catalyzing the pulse of a greater fight for freedom. A collective defiance echoing through the trees, the vibrant colors of our intentions streaming forward and igniting a blazing tapestry of hope amidst the chaos. Together we would rise. Together we would reclaim our stories. Together we would face whatever the Dominion threw at us. The world we entered was shadowy and fraught with danger, but it was also rich with possibility, and at last we would seize it. The air was charged now, a palpable electricity humming through me as I stood with Ari and Nadia, bracing ourselves against the unforgiving advance of the Enforcers. The resolve that fueled us coursed through the ranks of the Unyielding, their faces cast in determined shades, shadows dancing across resolute features. The moment of truth had arrived, and I could feel my heart thrumming with an echoing murmur of life, war drums thudding in my chest. "Remember, it's not just for us anymore," Nadia called out, her voice wrapping around us like armor. "This is for every soul captive under the Dominion's weight." The Enforcers surged forward, their black uniforms stark against the lush greens of the forest, a wall of smoke ready to stifle every flicker of rebellion. But we were far from alone. The Unyielding had formed a line, fierce and unyielding as their name hinted, weapons drawn, camaraderie glinting in their eyes like blades forged by purpose. I turned to Ari, adrenaline pulsing through the silence that hung between us, an unwritten understanding that we were now committed to the cause. With a unified roar, the Unyielding surged towards our foes, a wave crashing against the stagnant resolve of oppression. I grasped Ari's hand tightly, feeling the warmth and strength of their resolve channel through me as we plunged into the tumult. As I ran forward, the world began to move in slow motion, each heartbeat thudding with a deafening rhythm. I caught sight of spinning projectiles whistling overhead, thuds of energy blasts lighting up the woodlands and singeing the air. The clash was like the echoes of thunder, building and building, drowning the part of me that wanted to recoil in fear. "Stick close," Ari shouted, pulling me towards a cluster of tree trunks just as the first Enforcer stumbled back, defensively adjusting. Chaos erupted around us, figures darting here and there, employing every trick and tactic they'd mastered in avoiding the Dominion's iron grasp. Nadia led a charge, her fierce spirit unwavering as she confronted the nearest Enforcer, unleashing a flurry of blows that spoke to the hours they'd spent preparing for this very moment. I marveled at her strength, at the conviction behind each punch. She was not merely battling for survival, she was reclaiming something deeper, a sense of agency, a fight for what legacy would be left behind. Ari turned to me, urgency flashing in their eyes. "We have to do more than this. We cannot let them regroup." Understanding ignited within me. We weren't just there to fend off the Enforcers. We were there to dismantle the very systems that vilified us, to take back our stake in this fight. "Where do we go?" I shouted back above the din. "Follow me." Ari pointed toward a narrow path that wound away from the brawl, veiled in leafy tendrils that swayed like so many silenced voices yearning to speak their truths. "We'll draw their attention. You'll have to find the data core. If we can access the information and exploit their systems, we might turn the tide." The plan flashed with brilliance, and I nodded. Let's go. As we charged down the hidden path, adrenaline surged through my veins like wildfire. We could feel the enforcer's focus shift, away from the front line and toward our escaping forms. And with that knowledge, a determined resolve settled over me. I wasn't just running away. I was making a way forward. We need to hurry, I called out, racing alongside Ari as we pushed through the narrow offshoots, the branches tearing at our clothes like desperate fingers grasping to pull us back. I'll cover us, Ari exclaimed, skidding to a halt, taking position beside a slanted tree trunk just as the sounds of pursuit reached our ears. Rapid footsteps and indignant shouts like a storm following in our wake. Go, I'll catch up, I pleaded, every fiber of my being challenging Ari's resolve to slow our pace. This was my fight too, but Ari's eyes were bright, fierce with a determination that sent chills down my spine. We stay together, they affirmed, a channel of warmth igniting as quickly as it threatened to extinguish. Lyra, you need to reach that core. I believe in you. The tension crackled, but we pressed on, fueled by our shared determination, weaving through the heavy foliage that grew denser and more tenebrous with every stride. I could feel my heart racing, the echoes of battle raging behind us, the clamor of screams matching the beating of my resolve. We neared the data core, following a path I hoped would lead to something that could help our fight. The facade slipped away, revealing a steel door, the entrance to the heart of the damned machinery that had held us all captive. I pulled on the steely cold handle. It resisted for a moment but finally yielded to the pressure. Quick, I urged as we rushed in. The interior hummed with activity, screens blinked and flickered like distant stars, glowing with data pouring forth in layered graphs and diagrams that spoke of the Dominion's intricate systems. My hands trembled with the weight of opportunity. This was what the Unyielding had fought for. This was their chance. Which file? Ari asked, eyes darting across the multitude of screens. Try Enforcer unit movements, I suggested, recalling snippets of information gleaned from rumors. We can track their patrols too. Ari's fingers worked deftly across the keyboard as I heard the distant shouts echo through the holes of the compound, punctuated by the cracks of energy blasts. We need to buy time. I'll distract them, I declared, a spark igniting within me. I dashed back toward the door. Lyra, Ari's tone dropped dangerously low, concern pooling there like a storm cloud. You can't, I have to. I shot back, determination crystallizing in my voice. You need to finish this. Trust me, with a heart pounding like burst drums in my ears, I burst into the chaos anew, melding into the fray where the oppression surged. The Unyielding were still holding their ground, but I could see the encroaching enforcers, their ranks closing in. Shadows of despair threatened to undermine the hope of unity. Form up, I called out, weaving around the swirling forms of my allies and standing shoulder with them, defiance thickening the air. If we're going to win, we have to break through. Inspiration surged among them as I took point, charging toward the front lines. A flurry of flashes igniting against the oppression. This moment belonged to us. Through the blurred lines of fear and strength, we existed together as a force of liberation that would not be snuffed out. Ari's voice echoed in my mind, propelling me as I flung myself into the fray, employing latent skills, crafting camaraderie and determination. I swung with purpose and revived hope as enforcers crashed against our united front, infusing our strikes with passion that rippled through the air. Together, we had calculated this fight. Driven by the hope of liberation, the whisperings of the Unyielding had entwined with our hearts in a grand chorus of rebellion. The battle surged, and for every stumble, every wound, we took clarity from the notion that we were far more than individuals. We had become a tapestry woven within the pulse of something bigger than us, resilient threads bound for revolution. As I maneuvered against the tides of battle, my ears pricked up at Ari's voice, slicing through the clamoring crowd. I've got it. I can disrupt their mainframe. Stay strong. This is our moment. The weight of that declaration surged through me. a tide of renewed energy adrift in the storm of our fate. With passion coursing through our veins, I turned towards the enforcers, ready to reclaim our autonomy. In unexpected unison, the Unyielding rallied. Together, we pushed back against the oppressive weight of the Dominion, unifying our determination in the face of chaos. Our fears melted into sheer will, the enforcers faltering as the wave of our resistance erupted forth in a shared voice. The Unyielding will rise. Overhead, the very canopies of the trees trembled beneath the echoes of our battle cry, alive and flourishing like the relentless notions of strength that burgeoned in our chests. Every surge brought us closer, binding us in this fight for what we held most dear, a future inscribed in freedom, a narrative shaped not by fear, but fearlessness. Nadia's piercing shout cut across the fray. A push through, we must reach the front. As we crashed against the enforcers' defensive positions, we fought through a surreal mix of chaos and energy. The tide began to turn. The fate of our battle hung in a delicate balance, but like threads in the weave of destiny, we were merging together toward a singular truth. Just as the enforcers took deeper ground, Ari rejoined us amid the surge, their breath ragged yet fervent. I've tapped into their commands. We can redirect their forces, but we need to hold them off just a few moments longer. Rising like a flame, our conviction ignited. An urgency coursing through us, each enforcer we faced became less a wall and more a variable awaiting disruption. As if orchestrated by the natural flow of the universe itself, we grasped the opportunity that stretched before us as each second counted down into vital moments of reclamation. And then it came, the surge, the tumultuous turning edge of confrontation. An explosion rippled, the energy surging and scattering tendrils of light into the air. I felt the rush of wind against my skin amid the upheaval. It was a sign that whispers of destiny were stirring, unifying our paths into something shared, something greater than we had even imagined. In that split second, a moment when chaos felt absolute, I opened my eyes wider, my spirit alight with the hunger not just for survival, but for triumph. A pulse of energy overwhelmed the air as the enforcers began to stagger back, confusion igniting in their ranks. They scattered across the ground, like shattered glass reflecting the dawn of our shared liberation, and above it all, the dawning light illuminated a way forward through the darkness. And now, Ari hollered, "Together now!" And we surged like phoenixes, fueled by passion ignited a new unity burning bright as we charged forth in fierce coalescence, reclaiming our legacy while unfreezing moments that teetered precariously between fate and storytelling. Every step toward our essence intertwined. Every breath echoed with unity as the power of the Unyielding surged alongside us. The Dominion had thought they could keep us at bay, but here, at this juncture of uprising, we would seize our rightful place, writing our own ending fueled by rebellion braided with hope. As we raced forward to meet them, the undercurrent of liberation interlaced with threads of trust and sacrifice, our collective voices shook down barriers, catapulting us into a future that glimmered just ahead. Together, against all odds, we would rise, for this was only the beginning. With the spirit of youth and persistence threaded into our destinies, we shaped the story of tomorrow, a tale echoing through the cosmos, becoming the harbinger of what awaited. With ferocity, friendship, and an indomitable resolve, we launched ourselves forward, defenders of our truth, sculptors of our destiny. Together, we would carve out a new chapter and reshape the tortured future of our world with every step, transforming the narrative for generations to come. The Unyielding would no longer be mere shadows, we would become legends. As the dust of the battle settled, a haunting silence enveloped the ground that had just erupted with chaos. The victory against the enforcers felt both monumental and surreal, as if time had stretched into eons only to snap back in a powerful release. I stood among the remnants of the confrontation, breaths mingling with the chorus of whispers flowing through the Unyielding, the palpable sense of triumph intermingled with a wave of uncertainty. Ari was beside me, panting yet resolute, their eyes gleaming with that spark of unity that had driven us forward. "We did it, didn't we?" they breathed, the tremor of disbelief lacing their tone. I turned to capture the moment in my memory. The faces of bravery flickering around us, a kind of radiant glow emanating from those who had fought side by side against the unyielding oppression. Nadia stood at the forefront, rallying the troops as the enforcers fled into the abyss of the trees, their numbers diminished and surprisingly quiet now. "We have to regroup and assess the damage," she called out. Her voice, steady and commanding like it, had become a guiding light through turmoil. "Every victory has implications. We can't afford complacency." I watched her weave through the unyielding, her authority commanding their respect, and felt awe and admiration pulse within me. Yet behind that newfound sense of camaraderie was the silent tendril of fear, clutching at the corners of my thoughts. What came next? We had tasted the bittersweet flavor of victory, but now shadow loomed over consequences. Dare we breathe freely when the Dominion had not yet been completely vanquished? Lyra, Ari's voice pulled me from my reflections. I turned to see their brow furrowed, urgency flickering there like a flame caught in a sudden wind. "We need to check on the data core." We capitalized on their moment of confusion, but if we're going to protect this place, they paused, catching their breath, voice low as if reciting a solemn vow. "If we're going to solidify our future, we need to leverage the knowledge we've gained." The truth of their words reverberated through me, igniting determination once more. "You're right. There's too much at stake to lose our advantage." I took a steadying breath to gather my thoughts and felt the adrenaline ease slightly, but not entirely. The fires of anticipation still churned, propelling me forward. With a resolve echoing between us, Ari and I navigated through the labyrinth of the Unyielding's territory, making our way back towards the data core. The air buzzed with energy combined with apprehension. Our victory felt both tangible yet fragile, precarious upon a tightrope stretched across an abyss of uncertain futures. We entered the dimly lit chamber of screens, and the glow illuminated Ari's face like the first light of dawn. They rushed toward the keyboard, fingers dancing as they navigated through the interface with purposeful urgency. "Let's see what we can dig up." And my heart pounded in rhythm with their movements, a sense of unity enveloping us, a shared determination to peel back the layers hidden within the Dominion's data. I had never imagined that our fight for liberation would intertwine so deeply with ciphered information. But as Ari searched, I could feel the weight of the future resting in our grasp. As lines of code flickered before us, despair and threat bridged with threads of knowledge. "Oh, look," Ari said excitedly, tracing the lines on the screen. "We can access enforcer dispatch schedules, tactical operations, even personnel records. This is our chance to expose their weaknesses, their structure." Suddenly, an alert blared through the console, echoing with urgency. "Unauthorized access detected." The red lights pulsed ominously, sending waves of dread through my veins. "They're onto us," Ari exclaimed as their fingers raced to navigate the screen, desperately attempting to erase any traces we'd left behind. I felt my heart drop. "We can't lose this information. There has to be a way," I began, but Ari cut me off. "It's too late. We need to stay focused. If we don't make a decision now, we'll risk everything." As the tension thickened, I felt the pull of uncertainty warring within me. Yet amidst the panic, clarity surged. The Dominion had attacked our dignity, crushed our spirits. Time had always been on their side, fueled by advantage and manipulation. But now we were the architects of our destiny, armed with information, battle-tested resolve, and determination to rise. "Shut it down." I spoke the words firmly, feeling their resolution coalesce. "If it means going dark for now, we'll save the knowledge for later. We've fought for our lives, and now we fight for our future." Ari blinked at me, surprise etched across their features, but realization flared bright within their gaze. "You're right," they said, the tension easing slightly. "Let's not give them any more power." Together, we clicked through the commands, severing connections and locking down the system before any delicately woven information slipped into the ether, pulled away by the hands of the Dominion. The heaviness lightened, but worry still lingered. "Where will we go from here?" I whispered, the world around us folding into uncertainty. Ari nodded thoughtfully. "We'll need to consolidate the unyielding to share the victories and the losses alike. Every connection strengthens us. We cannot operate in isolation. It must become a collective effort." And nodding back, I felt my heart swell with determination and solidarity as we emerged from the confines of the date, a core back out into the sunlight. The hum of future possibilities, fragile yet undeniable, buzzed within us. As we stepped into the clearing, I was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The unyielding had gathered around Nadia near the battleground's remnants. Faces illuminated with lessons learned. Bonds formed anew. The once chaotic rush transformed into an impromptu assembly, a melding of minds, hearts, and hopes. Their stories knitting together the fragments of a shared past and a vision for healing the future. "Tonight, we celebrate our survival," Nadia proclaimed, and cheers erupted. "But tomorrow, we will work to forge a world free from oppression. We must craft our message, spread it wide and far, ensuring that every living soul who yearns for freedom knows they are not alone." The roaring energy filled the space, igniting my spirit as I exchanged glances with Ari, shadows still bearing witness to the challenges ahead. Yet we stood together, bound by hope, fueled by purpose. This moment was only the beginning. I climbed the makeshift dais that had formed with the remnants of our defenses, ready to speak my heart. This isn't just about us, it's about crafting a legacy for all who have ever been silenced, about making sure the Dominion's iron grip weakens until their shadow is nothing more than a distant memory. The unyielding erupted into applause, the joy expanding like wildfire. In that heartbeat, I knew we were on the precipice of something profound, transformation, revolution, a radical reimagining of freedom. Ari stepped forward beside me, their presence a warm balm. "We cannot do this without every hand outstretched, without the stories merging together as one," they added, their voice laden with fervor. "We'll stand against every shadow and claim victory, for the oppressed, for the dreams that once felt too fragile, and for the souls who dare to hope." A wave of unity crashed over us, pulling each heart closer as the unyielding erupted in a raucous cheer. Through every beat and breath, we solidified purpose, a dance of echoes, merging into an exhilarating symphony of change. As night began to sing through the horizon, opening with stunning hues of reds and purples, we felt the world shifting. A dance of liberation igniting in our souls. The future, though uncertain, promised a richness that transcended the remnants of our past. We were reclaiming our stories, boundaries yet to form, threads weaving together a nexus illuminating the shadows we had once concealed. And so, hand in hand with Ari, surrounded by the unyielding, we faced the future unflinchingly. A tapestry stretching wider with every heartbeat, illuminating the core of resilience, hope, and relentless determination. We were not simply survivors. We were champions of empowerment, ready to reclaim that which is rightfully ours, embarking on a journey to change the fabric of existence itself. Together, we would rise. Together, we would create. Together, we would forge our future into a new dawn of human spirit. The unyielding, no longer a whisper in the dark, but a clarion call woven into the very fabric of what it means to be free. The dawn broke with a muted glow, casting hesitant sunlight over the remnants of the battlefield and illuminating the faces of the unyielding gathered in unity. It was a new day, a blank page brimming with possibilities and purpose, but alongside the promise of hope loomed the shadow of resurgence. The Dominion would not take kindly to our defiance. The victory we'd seized still shimmered in the air, a fragile reminder that the battle was only just beginning. With the unity of the unyielding cementing our collective will, our earlier divisions were crumbling, replaced by shared determination, etched into the very fabric of our gathering. As Ari and I stood shoulder to shoulder, our newfound connection felt unbreakable, an unspoken vow binding us together before the tide of what lay ahead. Today, Nadia welcomed the assembly, her voice ringing strong above the rustling leaves. We will strategize our next steps. We've tasted victory, but we have also awakened a beast. The Dominion will retaliate. We must be prepared. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, charged energy weaving through the collective spirit. We can't hide or shy away, I added, stepping forward again, emboldened by the earlier strength shared. We have reclaimed our stories. Now we must turn them into a rallying call that echoes through the trenches of every corner where humanity feels oppressed. The gathered souls nodded in agreement, voices mingling in the shared conviction filling the air. To achieve that, Nadia interjected, we need plans, strategic pathways to ignite the will among the suppressed. We'll gather intelligence, and we'll craft the message that our people need to hear. The immediacy of her words ignited a fresh spark within me. We needed to build a network of trust, a tapestry of shared experiences that would ripple outwards, reaching those who still dwelled in shadows. The plan seemed daunting, yet as I scanned the faces around us, I could see the unyielding spirit reflected in their eyes, the promise of resilience towards united strength. We can reach out to the series of underground networks that once flickered like embers in the dark, Ari suggested. They'll know the secret routes, the hidden entrances gather them to our side. Awareness is our greatest weapon. I felt the warmth of courage swell in my veins, braiding trust with determination. And we can use technology to amplify our messages, I interjected, finding my footing amongst the rising enthusiasm. If we can create a data hub to distribute news of our victories, every success we share can spread like wildfire. But the audience roared in agreement. Excitement buzzed in the air as fervor surged, igniting voices echoing our earlier declaration. The unyielding would rise. We know the stakes have grown exponentially, Nadia asserted, her steel tone wrapping us in unwavering resolve. But fear is not our enemy, it is the gasoline that fuels our fire. We fight for one another not as individuals, but as a living embodiment of hope. We'll carve paths of liberation across this landscape until the Dominion knows they cannot snuff us out. Shadows of conviction coursed through the assembly, emboldening each heart as we collectively wove our intentions into action. Plans surged through directives and concrete actions, a burgeoning strategy built upon shared resilience. We would share our victories and ignite conversations in every sector, ensuring that those who felt reclaiming their voice could access the toolkit needed to rise. With every heart contributing and every mind colluding together, tastes of potential vibrated through us, a surge that transformed shared whispers into resounding roars and insistent echoes. When the assembly dwindled, every fierce gaze turned towards the imminent future, a rumble coursing through us. We each took to our stations, our assigned duties, ready to become the harbingers of change. The next hours blurred into a whirlwind of activity. We became artisans crafting transformation against the canvas of liberation. I set to work with Ari at a central hub, where we interconnected shattered networks of information, generating lines of communication amongst those seeking solace in the shadows. We worked through the night, bridging gaps and uniting resistance factions, reclaiming fragments of lost hope woven into the mosaic of our message. Imagine, Ari mused between breaths, the sheer power of unifying all these voices, every reach melted together demanding freedom. I nodded, shaking off weariness as commitment surged through me. Let's spread the word. Let every corner hear and join our call. No longer will we allow silence. As the first streaks of dawn poured light across the landscape, we felt emboldened, a transformative aura grounding us to what lay ahead. We would launch our movements, igniting the kindling of rebellion and stirring every heart against an invisible tyranny. Just as we finished setting everything in motion, the electronic buzz of communication surged through our devices, an alert signifying movement in the Dominion. They're sending patrols far outside our territory, Ari announced, scanning the screen as data flooded in. I felt the hair on the back of my neck rise with foreboding. They're searching for us. With urgency, we relayed information, sending messages to the unyielding factions to prepare for mobility, our hearts intertwining with resolve as we anticipated what lay ahead. The ground beneath simmered with tension. The Dominion could sense our unrest. They would not remain silent or idle while faced with the tides of revolution. Before long, the signal returned. A quick zigzag of pathways illuminated the screen. "We've reached them," Ari said coolly. "Our voices have begun spreading out. Everyone is aware." I nodded, feeling a rush of adrenaline coalesce with a yearning for escape. Yet an acute anxiety tightened its grip, wrapping around us. But they'll respond. The Dominion never stands idle. Then we need to be vigilant and ready to maneuver. Ari spoke, their determination radiating as they turned their gaze to me. We can't let them catch us off guard. The moment we sensed our fears intertwining with resolve, our souls surged in unison. We pulled together, the unyielding, coalescing energy and urgency into palpable resistance against the impending storm. The air reverberated with palpable anticipation as we strategized, illuminating plans to find safe passage and maintain our prowess. By the time the sun began to arch higher in the sky, casting anew the warmth across the unyielding, a newfound vigor surged through us. Hope clung to the horizon. We envisioned a revolution that could stand against the might of the oppressive regime. And with that moment of anticipation, I knew this was our time. We were the rightful architects of our future. After a long day etched with strategy and camaraderie, we stood at the threshold, staring into the expanse of the horizon before us. The opportunity to shape our destiny, to reclaim our sovereign lives, burned brightly in the hearts of the unyielding. And what would those stories tell? I inhaled deeply, feeling the wild energy unfurling around us, breathing a potent atmosphere of promise. Today was only a singular chapter of our climb toward liberation. The true revolution was just beginning. The Dominion may have been powerful, but we had risen as an unshakable force, determined to ignite change, to weave our destiny, and to elevate every oppressed heart longing for freedom. Together we would rise. Together we'd forge onward into a new world, one where our stories broke free, transcending the chains that once bound us in silence. And with each whisper turned roar, the unyielding would become an unstoppable tide, reclaiming our freedom across the cosmos. Stand together, rise together. The resonance echoed through our hearts, compelling the transformation of uncertainty into bold action. Today, the revolution would unfurl in every shadow. We would stitch the fabric of rebellion into the very heart of every soul longing to soar. The sun blazed bright overhead, reminiscent of our collective soul. A flickering flame now ignited, ready to illuminate the paths toward uncharted destinies. And so, we stepped forward, ready to embrace our stories and become the legends we were meant to be. Together, we launched into the unknown, seeking the echoes of our freedom. In the aftermath of our first real victory against the Dominion, the air crackled with an intoxicating blend of hope and trepidation. I looked around at my comrades, their expressions a tapestry of exhilaration and determination, and yet I felt an unsettling undercurrent threading its way through our ranks. Our newly claimed map stretched infinitely before us, a web of possibilities interwoven with shadows we had yet to confront. As we gathered at the makeshift command center, the unyielding had set up in the woods, the faint hum of technology mixed with the crisp air, propelling us forward. Each pulse of energy resonated with purpose, igniting sparks of innovation as our minds churned with strategy and camaraderie. Every word spoke of liberation, solidarity pulsing through us, a palpable energy woven into the fray of rebellion. Today, we lay the groundwork for something larger than ourselves, Nadia declared as she surveyed the crowd, her voice steady and resolute. Our victory must not fade into obscurity. We must cultivate this momentum and spread it like wildfire across the sectors. We are the voice of those long silenced, and we will not waver. Applause erupted, a collective roar fueled by conviction. My heart quickened at the thought of what lay ahead, a daunting horizon tinged with uncertainty but vibrant with potential. I stole a glance toward Ari, who stood firm beside me, their eyes alight with fervor. We had become more than allies in this fight. We were part of a narrative unfolding through our shared commitment to a cause greater than ourselves. With the fervor of rebellion coursing through us, we broke into smaller groups, focused intently on strategy sessions to amplify our reach. Through a collective effort, we started defining our next steps: the creation of communication networks, the assembly of resources, the forging of allegiances with those who had previously been too afraid to rise against the Dominion. Every connection would strengthen the fabric of resolve we desperately needed against the looming threat. I've already reached out to several key individuals in the outlying sectors, Ari said, leaning over the holographic map sprawled out before us. Flickering glow illuminated their features, the lines of determination highlighted. They're poised to join the movement, but need reassurance that we can stand firm against the Dominion. We need to amplify our successes. They need to see that we can't be easily crushed. Then let's craft a message, I replied, fervor rising within me. The thought of gathering those too long in silence invigorated my spirit. We should share not just what we've accomplished, but what we stand for, what the future could hold. We can use our victories as examples, tangible proof of power in unity. As the discussions heated up, I could see the trust growing amongst us, every cracking voice tempered by newly ignited determination. Fires of hope flared, illuminating the path, while the unyielding weight of reality sank deep into my chest. Yes, we had triumphed, but the Dominion would not allow this flame to flicker unchecked. I could feel their breath on the back of my neck, sending chills swirling through my reminders of the past. Lyra, Nadia called, pulling my attention back to the present. She had gathered several of us around a makeshift table, a flicker of urgency in her eyes. We need an operational strategy to prepare for the inevitable retaliation. They will come. They cannot afford to lose their grip. With intent focus, we sketched out plans, identifying potential targets, logistics hubs, breeding grounds of enforcers, anything that could disrupt their command chain. We needed momentum, and we needed to strike first. Weeks flowed into miles as we honed our strategies, assembling a motley gathering of rebels, each bearing scars from the past, but hearts radiating fierce resilience. I watched the Unyielding come alive, breathing purpose into the very essence of resistance. We prepped and trained. Each strike, each maneuver felt like a step toward reclaiming our stories, our identities long withheld. The early morning light broke one fateful day when Ari and I stood at the edge of our gathering, watching as the team completed final preparations. It's all coming together, Ari said, surrendering to the breath of hope. But we can't overlook the fact that our past is still nipping at our heels. I nodded, the weight of those words humming through me. We have to confront it. If we don't, if we let it linger unaddressed, it could unravel everything we're building. The truth we'd unearthed weighed heavily upon us. The emotional stakes grew alongside the unfolding physical battle. Our efforts culminated in a carefully orchestrated rally in a clearing just outside our territory, a space where shadows could coalesce privately. We would relay our stories, raw, unfiltered truths that shattered the silence cultivated by the Dominion's fear tactics. As we gathered in that sacred space lit by the golden rays of a rising sun, I felt the energy pulse in the hearts of the Unyielding. With every voice that rose from the depths of despair to the light of defiance, I felt the darkness inching away, the tales woven together in an intricate tapestry of resistance. Today marks a departure from the chains that bond us. We stand united in our differences, our unique struggles woven together to create a rich fabric, a testament of perseverance, Nadia proclaimed, her voice resounding through the air like the cracks of distant thunder. The crowd responded, "We are unyielding." As I watched familiar faces share their personal struggles, I recognized something elemental within their stories. Vulnerability transformed into strength, and what had begun as whispers erupted into a symphony of defiance. The tales resonated with deep laughter alongside hard-won tears. Each recounted experience, an affirmation of resilience amid adversities threaded within our lives. People shared stories of loss, of former lives lived in shadows, and how they came to be part of this collective vision. a tapestry newly forged in the incandescent glow of possibility. Each voice resonated like music, a rallying cry against the oppressive hold of the past. It was not merely a gathering, it was the forging of a movement. As the stories unfurled, I felt a connection deepening amongst us, wherein our collective identity expanded beyond individual experiences. The shadows that once loomed now faded into reminders of strength, while the shared narratives ignited fervor. In time, the Unyielding would embrace not just our stories, but the legacies entwined with our fight, a profound testament that echoed far beyond our present struggles. Our voices melded into a rising tide, inspiring those still living in fear. "We are unyielding," I shouted, my voice mingling with the chorus, a fortress of hope against the dark. And together, we will reshape this world. The fervor erupted. Cheers filled the clearing, a chaotic mixture of laughter and defiance rising like flames licking at the sky. As the ceremony came to a close, we gathered in quiet reflection, a moment of unity forged against the backdrop of uncertainty. Gazes turned towards the horizon, shadows still loomed, but now we stood empowered, armed with stories that could pierce through darkness. "Tomorrow, we prepare for whatever comes our way," I proclaimed, my words intertwining with conviction. "We will not be broken. We'll face the storm together." The crowd erupted in agreement, a vital energy threading through us as we embraced newfound purpose. However, in the innermost recesses of my heart, the fears lingered. The Dominion would strike back. They would not allow this spark of rebellion to proliferate. As twilight descended, painting the landscape with hues of purple and gold, I resolved to stand firm among the unyielding. Together, we would face whatever shadows approached, crafting an unshakable harmony amidst the uncertain future that loomed before us. The time for waiting had passed. The true battle was just starting. With every ember illuminated by the fire of our unity, I found myself emboldened. I would not let our stories go silent again, even as the darkness threatened to encroach. We would rise, reclaim our lives, and embrace our destinies. Tomorrow, we would summon our strengths and reclaim what had long been denied, a steadfast belief in each other and the belief that together we could change the course of history. Together, we would confront the encroaching storm, standing tall against the Dominion, one unyielding voice at a time. The sun emerged hesitantly over the horizon, casting warm tendrils of golden light across the unyielding gathering, awakening its members from their night of urgent plotting and passionate storytelling. This morning, an electric tension thrummed through the air, suffused with anticipation and a hint of trepidation. Today would mark the beginning of a new chapter, a pivotal moment in our fight against the Dominion. As I stood at the heart of our assembly, surrounded by fierce allies, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me. Every heartbeat felt synchronized, a collective pulse echoing our shared resolve to confront the darkness that had long overshadowed us. The morning dew glistened around us as people moved with intent, laughter mingling with determination. We were warriors on the brink of revolution. "We've shared our stories," I began, raising my voice above the murmurs, "and now we must turn our words into action. The Dominion has shown us their strength, but together we will unveil our resolve." And Nadia stepped forward, her presence commanding and radiant. "Today, we are no longer individuals clinging to the past. We are a collective force united in our struggle for freedom. Whatever comes our way, we will face it head on." The crowd responded with a roar, a surge of energy igniting in the air. "We've established the networks," Ari chimed in, drawing attention to the digital map projected in the center of our gathering. It pulsed with patterns and insights, a tapestry of connections linking us to sympathizers and allies in the outlying territories. But we also need to expect a direct response from the Dominion. They won't take our uprising lightly. The sounds of hurried footsteps signaled the arrival of our scouts, wearing expressions of urgency as if they had run the entire distance to share vital information. My heart raced as they approached. What news had they uncovered? The collective hush spread through our ranks, anticipation hanging thick in the air. "We have word from the outer sectors," one of the scouts panted, catching their breath. "The Dominion is mobilizing. They've sent reinforcements, and they're tightening patrols. Their aim is clear. They want to stamp out the Unyielding before we can spread any further." Tension crackled in the air like static electricity, but a surge of determination welled up within me. "Gather everyone," I commanded. "We have to seize this moment. Our unity is our greatest weapon. If we act swiftly and strategically, we can undermine their numbers and strike first." The scouts nodded and dashed off, relaying the message to the assembly. As I turned back to the Unyielding, the faces around me glowed with defiance, the echoes of our shared resolve resonating within our hearts. The battle ahead would be grueling, but we were prepared to risk everything, and that made all the difference. Within the hour, we had mobilized, creating small groups armed with the knowledge we had banded together to compile. Each team was tasked with specific missions: sabotage, intelligence, gathering, and recruitment. As we set off into the wild, I could feel the currents of courage rippling beneath the surface. This was not merely a fight against the enforcers. It was a fight for our identities, our voices, our very essence. As the sun climbed higher, painting the sky a brilliant blue, we infiltrated strategic routes, unearthing hidden passages and remnants of fallen territories. Every step we took echoed with purpose, while our hearts surged with a collective reminder we were the authors of our fate. Even amid the oncoming storm, we could carve out a new destiny, a world liberated from tyranny. Our first objective was the supply depot located on the fringes of the Dominion's surveillance. Upon arrival, we settled in, surveying the area for weaknesses, and I motioned for silence as I outlined the initial plan. The Dominion's enforcers were spread thin, but they remained vigilant. Timing would be everything. "We strike swiftly and silently," I instructed, my voice steadying the group. "Ari and I will lead the charge. Trust your instincts and keep communication open. Every fluid motion counts, as does each life we brighten or alter by making this stand." With nods of understanding, we split into our designated teams, adrenaline rushing through our veins as we positioned ourselves strategically. My heart drummed in my chest as the signals began to flow, an invisible tether binding us as we strategized, our movements orchestrated with precision. With a clear signal, we surged forward, cloaked in shadows. The atmosphere was charged with urgency as we navigated through the convoluted corridors, the heavy air hanging thick with oppression. Tension simmered just beneath the surface as we came closer to the depot inside. There were no words needed. We were all acutely aware of the stakes. Just as we reached the inner core of the depot, alarms blared, a cacophony splintering the stillness around us. The enforcers were instantly mobilized. I felt adrenaline spike as I pushed through the door, panic racing through my body. "Regroup, hold your ground," I shouted as I spotted the first wave of enforcers charging toward us. They emerged like shadows, their resolute forms stiff and fearsome, yet we had become one elastic entity, each breath flaring with confidence and electricity. The clash erupted, fists and weapons met, colliding with crashes that echoed through the air like thunderclaps. The Unyielding fought back fiercely, our voices roaring as we faced the enforcers in an exhilarating rush. I could feel the stories, our stories linking us in strength, whispering through each punch and strike. Ari darted through the chaos beside me, feet moving like lightning as they deflected an enforcer's blow with practiced ease. "Keep moving, we need to plant the charges on the supply crates," they yelled, determination dancing in their eyes. With a fierce nod, we pressed forward, forging through the tumult. We worked as a team, silencing oppositional forces in waves. As the last enforcer fell, I turned my gaze toward the crates stacked ominously against the walls. We needed to place the charges, and quickly. The fate of our mission depended on the element of surprise. "Cover me," I shouted, my heart racing as I knelt to secure the explosives. My hands moved deftly, each connection binding us closer to victory as I meticulously set the timer and sealed our fate. A crackle launched through the air, and the thrill of possibility surged within me. But then, Just as I secured the last charge, the footfalls of enforcers echoed through the entrance, an overwhelming sense of dread radiating throughout. "Illyra, we need to get out." Ari's urgent voice broke through the chaos. Now, with newfound resolve, I secured the final explosives, armed with everything we had fought for. "Let's go," I yelled, sprinting forward and gripping Ari's arm as we surged toward the back exit. The echoes of pursuit rang in our ears as we rushed into the open air, adrenaline propelling us towards safety. Just as we cleared the area, a cacophony erupted behind us. An explosion of unbridled energy tore through the depot, sending a shockwave rattling into the air. The force propelled us forward, and we dove into the underbrush just as the supply depot crumbled behind us, a manifestation of our determination, of our victory. The blast rang through the air behind us like a beacon of change. We emerged from the foliage, breathless but alive, and I caught sight of our comrades arrayed beyond the shattered remnants of the Dominion's hold. Triumph surged through me, warming the chill of the chaos we had faced. "Did we do it?" I gasped, the exhilaration of unbridled energy dancing through my veins. The walls that had once confined our spirits were now shattered, and I could see the faces of my allies glowing with determination. "We did," Ari exclaimed, a smile breaking through the tension. "That was only one blow, but we'll keep striking until we dismantle the Dominion's entire structure." With every passing moment, our victory echoed through time, reverberating beyond the remnants of oppression and fear. I didn't just feel elation, I felt rebirth stirring in our hearts as the tides shifted toward us. As we regrouped, our minds turned toward our next moves, adrenaline still coursing through us. We would break down barriers, sharpen strategies, and rise together, a relentless force against the shadows we had previously inhabited. Where there had been chains binding us, we would forge alliances stronger than any prison bars. With our spirits soaring, we knew what lay ahead. The path would be riddled with danger, but we were stepping into an era born from the ashes of stagnation. With each footfall, we ascended together. The unyielding would rise against the oppression, and each voice raised would be an anthem signing the arrival of a fresh dawn. Together, I shouted, feeling the tension crackle across the group. With every line of our stories woven together, each heart beating in unison, we will face the storm. Nothing can break the bonds we have forged. My declaration ignited a roaring response. Together, echoed back as the sound tied the fabric of our spirits stronger. We were more than mere fighters. We were creators of choices that would ripple through to generations long after we had set the world ablaze with our defiance. The Dominion would bear witness to our uprising. We would carve our legacy into the annals of time. With the fortified belief that we could disrupt the fabric of this world, we set forth toward our next target, armed with hope and a spirit that would never yield. The unyielding were no longer mere shadows. We had become a force woven from resilience that echoed across the landscape, ready to reclaim the essence of who we were meant to be. And so we marched forward, rising against the looming clouds of oppression, ready to illuminate the world beyond shadows, fearlessly unyielding, forever resilient. The day of reckoning awaited, and we were ready to shape it into a narrative woven from the very spirit of rebellion. Together we would rise. Together we would change this universe forever. And as the horizon stretched limitless before us, we understood. This was just the beginning. Our story was taking flight.